Hello there, and welcome to Keep and Destroy. I'm your host, Adam Luff. This is a Gerry Anderson themed podcast where I'll be interviewing his fans and asking a tough question. If you could only pick 5 of your favourites, which would you keep? And which 5 can you not stand and want to destroy? You can only pick 5 of each, so choose wisely. But don't worry.
Just relax. Relax completely.
They can be episodes from any of his series. They can be any of his one-off pilots, like The Investigator, The Day After Tomorrow, and Space Police. And they can be any of his feature films. However, they must be something that Gerry either directed, produced, or wrote. Although I personally consider The Adventures of Twizzle and Torchy the Battery Boy to be Roberta Lee's creations, they are eligible. But adaptations of his work, such as Turbocharged Thunderbirds, the CGI Thunderbirds Are Go, and the 2004 live-action Thunderbirds movie, are not included. As much as I would like, I can't choose the movie for my destroy list. These rules are harsh. We will also not include anything that was made after his passing, so I'm afraid there'll be no Thunderbirds 1965 and no puppet version of Firestorm. However, the anime version of Firestorm is acceptable. When it comes to the two-parters, they will take up 2 slots as they were transmitted as individual episodes, although I will make an exception for Dick Spanner due to the serial structure of that series. So instead of settling for Case of the Human Cannonball Part 5 and nothing else, both Cannonball and the Case of the Maltese Parrot can be selected as complete stories. Along with each selection and why you chose them, we would like to hear from you about what Gerry Anderson means to you and what impact he's had on your life. Me? I was a Gerry Anderson fan since the late 80s when my father bought the Channel 5 videocassettes of Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. During the 90s, I got the odd tape of some of the other shows, but never completed any of them. It was in 2001 when I became a die-hard fan, buying all the videos off eBay and later converting to DVD. And I've pretty much covered all of his work now, with the exception of Torchy the Battery Boy. Gerry Anderson has inspired me to work in the film industry as a freelance scriptwriter. I've also directed and produced and edited and done a bit of acting as well. I work mostly with clients outside the UK, such as Canada and China. I've also worked in the United States, and it was in San Francisco where I studied my master's degree in filmmaking. But one of my ambitions is to write scripts in the Gerry Anderson canon, so if Big Finish ever gets the rights to produce new episodes of Lavender Castle or The Secret Service, I want in. I'm also a voting member at the British Independent Film Awards, also known as BIFA. And when it comes to the fan community, you'll probably know me as the guy who makes all those meme pictures and videos. Okay, that siren means it's time to choose what I'd like to keep. First, we'll start with my favourite Super Marination episode of all time, which is Joe 90's Attack of the Tiger. Ever since I saw this on DVD in 2002, I was blown away. From a show that focused more on slow-paced but well-thought-out character-driven stories, this episode proved that Joe 90 could be just as epic as Thunderbird's Terror in New York City or Captain Scarlet's Attack on Cloudbase. There's a great selection of Barry Gray's music as well, from the opening shot using Supercar's Talisman of Sargon, and there's another piece from the Talisman track that was also used in 5XL5's The Sun Temple, and of course one of Barry Gray's finest tracks, Stingray's The Big Gun. Attack of the Tiger is a tremendous high-stakes episode, and I absolutely recommend it. And so here's my second favourite, Stingray's Emergency Marineville. For a while this was my favourite Super Marination episode, until I saw Attack of the Tiger, but nevertheless it's another great example where the stakes are high, starting off with a mystery as they go to investigate the island, and then the story shifts gears in the second act and becomes a race against time to disarm the missile before they destroy Marineville. Once again, Barry Gray delivers some fine music. A little bit of trivia for you, the opening score to the episode that you may remember from Thunderbirds The Uninvited. It's also used in Attack of the Tiger, but very briefly.
Amagato! Amagato!
To me, Emergency Marineville is quintessential Stingray. If someone had never seen the show before, this would be my choice for the required viewing. The Protectors, the first circle. Surprisingly, I've chosen one of my least favourite Anderson shows. It's a show that I just struggled to get through both seasons, to be honest. But there were highlights here and there, and The First Circle is one of them. It's also a fine piece of television. Written by Anderson stalwarts Tony Bowick, he's just given us something that's worthy of a BAFTA. A story that was, at the time, quite topical, and Ed Bishop's captivating performance as the Vietnam veteran haunted by his past. As much as I love him as Captain Blue and Ed Straker, his role as Colonel Hunter is exceptional.
A wife should have pride in her husband. A man's got to have. Colonel John Hunter, Base Commander, United States Air Force. Orders.
And it's not just Ed Bishop that's doing a good job. He's accompanied by a great supporting cast as well. A special mention must also go to the director Don Chaffee, who delivers superb cinematography with his choices of camera angles and the lighting. It's very effective. And now we come to Terrorhawk's Thunder Roar, an underrated gem if you ask me. After hearing about Terrorhawks, which had a bad reputation back then, I watched it in July of 2001 with low expectations. But seeing just how dark and creepy those early episodes were, I thought that the show had some great potential to have a horror tone along the lines of, say, something you would read in a Roald Dahl story. The opening scene alone with SRAM being unleashed and Zelda screaming. It's just utterly chilling. Although Terrorhawks is seen in a more positive light now, in my opinion for the wrong reasons, more on that later, the early episodes provide a great insight to what might have been had the show stuck to its original tone. And my final choice comes from my favourite Gerry Anderson show, Thunderbirds, The Man from MI5. Some might say an unusual episode. As much as I enjoyed the death-defying missions of international rescue, I've always preferred the exploits of Lady Penelope and Parker, with episodes such as The Perils of Penelope, The Duchess's Assignment, The Cham Cham, and Lord Parker's Holiday. This may be controversial, but I would have preferred to have a Lady Penelope and Parker spin-off instead of a second season of Thunderbirds. Fortunately, The Man from MI5 is a great example of what could have been, with David Graham's venomous performance as the villain Carl, alongside Sylvia Anderson giving a rather flirtatious side of Penelope. Their scenes together are a real highlight, giving us that Emma Peel, John Steed Avengers banter for the adults to enjoy. Well, that's it for those I want to keep, but what about those I want to destroy?
This is where the fun usually starts.
We start off with Four Feather Falls, Bandits Abroad. It's a charming series, but I have little patience for this episode. Dream episodes are hit and miss at the best of times, but I've never liked the trope of identical characters having nuances that are obvious to the audience, but the characters in the show can't see the difference. In this case, it's Fernando having a black moustache and Pancho having a white moustache. I also have a problem with the writing, as Jill Allgood seems to be trying to give Fernando a catchphrase.
Never did I been so unhappy.
It's said constantly throughout the episode, and yet he never said it in any other episode, including episodes that Jill Allgood wrote. Thunderbirds, give or take 1 million. Back to Thunderbirds, but this time with a dud. An unfortunate choice for the finale as well, as it just doesn't utilise the show's premise. International Rescue are just a glorified taxi and play no part in the conflict. Also, the plot with the bank robbers and the hostages adds little to nothing. This is an episode that needed some serious rewrites to include the show's characters. Perhaps if Scott and Tintin had been captured during their Christmas shopping and needed to be rescued, or maybe if Penelope and Parker were in pursuit of the crooks and get caught, or maybe even streamline the guest characters and have the two Santas be the bank robbers, looking for a Christmas bonus. It's not Thunderbird's finest hour. It's not even a good Christmas episode when Stingray and Joe 90 have better offerings. The Protectors, it could be practically anywhere on the island. A key factor of why I have a low opinion on this Anderson show is this one episode. It's just an insufferable pantomime with bad acting all around. Written by Tony Bowick, who gave us the fantastic First Circle, but directed by the leading actor Robert Vaughn, a man who's gone on record saying that the show was tasteless junk. To me, this episode perfectly captures his attitude of the show on the screen. Terrorhawks, A Christmas Miracle. Well, we're back to Terrorhawks, and we're back to a Christmas episode, but unlike Give or Take a Million, which was doomed from the start, The Christmas Miracle suffers because it had such a sound premise of Einstein and Zelda having a final battle with everyone caught in the middle. The solution of the ceasefire was a nice touch as well, referencing the Christmas truce during the First World War. But the episode just falls apart the moment Zelda shows up at the end, looking like someone from the red light district. Fortunately, that was just a dream. You know, a bad episode is undone because it's a dream. But alas, in the final shot, they just go and break the fourth wall, looking into camera, wishing everyone a happy Christmas. What an absolute load of Terrorhawks, played against SRAM. Yep, back again with Terrorhawks. You may find this hard to believe, but I do like the show. But I have to be frank, this is the worst of Gerry Anderson's output. Yes, I rate all the previous entries higher than this. I would rather watch Crossroads to Crime. I would even give that unreleased GFI pilot a watch over this. I bet you I enjoy that more than I like this episode. Hey, let me watch it and prove me wrong. Played Against SRAM is the moment Terrorhawks jumped the shark. For a show that had real menace in those early episodes, and a great debut for the intimidating SRAM in the aforementioned Thunder Roar, and now we're at the point of no return as we have a ridiculous comedy that undermines everything the show set up. 1 minute Zelda's destroying the NASA base on Mars, and now all of a sudden she's rapping in a song contest of all things. It's at this point where too much focus is given to the Kate Kestrel singing subplot, as well as expanding on the overbearing characters like Stu Dapples and Sistar. Although there were some fantastic episodes that came afterwards, such as The Ultimate Menace, Gold and First Strike, but sadly because of this episode, Terrorhawks has hit rock bottom. And so there you have it. Of course, my choices may not match your choices. I'm surprised actually that Captain Scarlet and the Secret Service, which are my second and third favourite shows respectively, I couldn't find any room for some episodes. But it'll be interesting to see what other fans pick for their Keep and Destroy. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and a share and a subscribe. I'll be having more episodes with other Anderson fans in the future, so stay tuned. And before I go, I'd like to give a special shout out to that sound effects guy on YouTube. He's provided me with the sound effects for the alarms and the explosions and the ambient sound. So check his site out, he's really good. This is Adam Luff, signing out.